Good afternoon, everyone, and it's my pleasure to moderate this session with the stalwarts of the industry. Friends, today's session is Retail Renaissance, Old Fundamentals, New Drivers to Unlock Growth. Long before the words pandemic and COVID-19 became a part of our everyday lives and vocabulary, traditional retail was undergoing significant changes. New players in the market, digitally native businesses, and disruptive technologies were challenging retailers. The challenges were steeper for retailers that had a predominant brick and mortar presence. Newer, more technologically advanced businesses were using multiple channels to offer consumers new means of discovery, new levels of convenience, and personalization. At the same time, the consumer itself was changing. A more powerful, a more purposeful, conscious consumer was emerging. One who was more mindful of her consumption and more aware of the values her favorite brands represented. A new retail renaissance had begun, compelling retailers to adopt to new models as digital disruption fueled rocketing consumer expectations. The pandemic acted as a catalyst, fueling the already raging fire and accelerating transformation. A study has confirmed that the pandemic sped up the already prevalent shift occurring to consumer spends online. Many retailers have experienced the same growth in the first 10 weeks of the pandemic as they had in the previous 10 years, sustaining the sorts of spikes they might normally see a few days of the year over many weeks. So, safety, convenience, personalization, etc. are the new drivers of this retail renaissance. What remains the same is the fundamentals such as integrity, customer centricity, ethical practices, great variety, and product quality. So, old fundamentals, new drivers, to unlock the growth. What are these new drivers? Let us hear from our esteemed panelists today. And with this, I would like to ask Devendra Chawla, DC is here. The first question. DC, how has the crisis resulted in massive disruption in the business models of most of the sectors, according to you?
Hi, Hitesh. Thanks for having me. And allow me to first say hi to the panelist. Hi, Mohit. Hi, Anurag. And I must tell Prateek, I had Domino's pizza only last night, but the biryani I still haven't tried. So that feedback will come when I do. So Hitesh, now, you see, in every crisis, there is an opportunity. And when the pandemic started, it came to my mind because I used to travel to China a lot for business in my earlier job. And I learned that the whole birth of companies like Alibaba happened because of the whole SARS, and when people couldn't come out, and the whole e-commerce channel actually got a fillip at that time. But that was like a decade back, or years back. And so every crisis presents an opportunity. And like in China, the adoption of e-com, or I mean, for lack of more companies' name, the rise of, let's say, Alibaba. I think there are many trends which are happening in India and we all are experiencing. And I'm sure Prateek will tell you that me and Prateek were talking in the middle of the pandemic to jointly deliver essentials. And then Prateek did do it with companies, and so did we. And I'll go to what Nagesh also just spoke before us, that there are many evolving trends, like, sometimes nothing happens in a decade. And look at the rise of OTT now. I think words Netflix and today's Z5 has become household names. We always knew ed tech, but look at ed tech now. And I'm consciously not speaking on omni-channel retailing because I'm sure everybody knows. Look at the ed tech. Like, who would have thought our kids will study one full year of their lives sitting in front of a laptop? For us also, we used to be a very single digit, low penetrated app omni-channel business. But in the first 6 months of the pandemic, it was a very high double-digit number, and very high. Even today, the number is high double-digit. So I think the way of doing business and the way of serving consumers itself has evolved in the pandemic, and absolutely technology has played a very big role in it. And one of these management mantras, I'm sure everybody will tell you, disrupt or be disrupted, I think is the only option left for businesses. Now, I don't mean people won't come back to the stores. In fact, 85-90% traffic is already back as we speak, and they're buying more than earlier. So in a sense, at least as far as grocery is concerned, the business by and large is back. But all successful, even businesses, either you disrupt or get disrupted. I think you have to keep the customer at the center. And I just hope, we've had so many webinars, so many such discussions, that somewhere this meaning of this word disruption and, digital, I think people have overused it to an extent that I just hope we don't lose the wood for the trees. It shouldn't become a fashion of the day to talk about it versus doing it. And I think technologies have evolved. Customer behavior, like subscription model, platforms, freemium, omni-channel, I think they're becoming relevant for every industry. And Nagesh was speaking before us, and I'm a very big believer of ecosystem partnership. Even that the pandemic has thrown a business model. Like, why would a pizza company or a retailer who sells even fashion or general merchandise or essentials partner together? But me and Prateek did speak, and such many, we did tie up with Flipkart approached us. We worked with Uber, Swiggy, many companies. Who would have thought ever before pandemic that we all will work together? So I think, and even Nagesh said that, ecosystem partnership, I believe alone as a company, you have, unless you are like the mightiest in the world, and even then I don't believe you can do everything on your own. I think there's a limited sphere of influence. But if you have partnerships, or if you're not competing, I think partnerships will evolve. If you see on the payment side in India, companies which are even competing are partnering. Like, I don't want to take a name, but there's a wallet company which takes payment of other wallets on their own mall online, and vice versa. So I think that's the future, and our leaders ready to work with your competitor as a partner, right? And I think developing, therefore it becomes very pertinent to realize that we need much higher impact capabilities, and those can be created by leveraging ecosystem players and core competency. I think coming to new models, on-demand model, I think has been transforming many industries. And with the concept of sharing, like Ubers, or staying in like hotels which are sharing, I think the sharing economy, the rise of minimalistic philosophy for millennials. I see a lot of young people, ownership for them is over, and I think sharing is really easier for them. And lower propensity of ownership have also made on-demand model mainstream. So I think that let that be my opening comment, and I don't wish to take more time, but practically everything is getting disrupted.
Sure, DC. Delivery essentials, you had discussed this with Prateek. I'll be asking my next question on models to Prateek. Before that, you spoke about OTT, EdTech, partnerships. One important point that you spoke about, DC, was competitor as a partner. And I would like to know more about that as well, and on-demand model, etc. So Prateek, what has been your experience, and what is it that you are undergoing today as far as disruption in business model for your organization is concerned?
Thank you, Hitesh. And great to hear DC's very inspiring thoughts. I think as far as what Jubilant sort of faced during COVID, I think the first thing it did, and you referred to it in your opening remarks, is that it accelerated already existing trends in the category. The growth of the organized sector, the growth of delivery, the growth of digital, the growth of trusted brands within that. So all of those trends were pre-existing, which got a tailwind. Our response was broadly in three phases. The first phase, like I think everybody here in this panel, was just about trying to get business back on its feet. The physical act of reopening stores, getting employees back in the system safe, keeping our customers safe, creating and rolling out new SOPs for safety, for hygiene, all of that. Making sure that we had the PPEs and all of that, all the business continuity work that was required. Stage two was a very, very important stage we transitioned to, which was about examining the innards of a business model. and seeing where we had inefficiency, where we could cut wastage, cut costs. Because this period was when, as all of us saw and went through, revenues were hard to come by. And in business models like ours, which are high fixed cost based, we were perforce challenged to look at every element of our value chain and look at our cost structure and take some really tough calls. Calls that we have been otherwise very hesitant to take or taken over many months, many quarters potentially. But we had to take those calls. And what emerged therefrom was a much leaner and a far more efficient business model. We questioned every activity, whether it needed to exist at all in the first place, and if it did, could it be done more effectively and more efficiently. Technology began to play a much larger role immediately because of the need to get efficiencies. We also started asking the question about what is our core capability, how can we extend that to other areas, which is why the entire point about essentials, that can we use our core strength of delivery to serve our communities and our customers in different ways from the traditional ones that we are used to. Stage 3, Hitesh, was the natural evolution post that efficiency seeking phase, which was about, and that's the phase we are in right now, and that's the very exciting phase, knowing that COVID, of course, was a very strong headwind in the short term, but knowing also equally that COVID for our sector will be an even bigger tailwind in the longer term. The questions we are asking is, how can we use this inflection point to drive hypergrowth in our business? So if you see what we've done in the last 4 months now, we launched a new brand, which DC very kindly called out in his comments, Ekdam Biryani, which DC will come to you hopefully soon in Mumbai, but would love to host you in Gurgaon when you are here next.
Thank you. I'm in Gurgaon right now. Happy to have it today.
Yeah, we should have it today. Let's talk offline.
I'll call you, yeah.
Yeah. So we launched Ekdam Biryani, a project that was in the making. We fast-tracked it, got into the market. We launched our packaged foods brand called Chef Boss. Again, a project which was in the making, but we fast-tracked it given what we were going through. We made a portfolio investment in Barbecue Nation. And very recently, as recently as last week, we announced a stake in Domino's Pizza Eurasia, which is a master franchisee for Domino's Pizza in Turkey, in Russia, in Azerbaijan and Georgia. It's one of the largest franchisees of Domino's globally. So these steps are all towards our aspiration and actually a conviction that we are now entering a phase of hypergrowth in our category. Fundamentally, all the inflections that we saw during COVID, for example, the growth of digital, the growth of delivery, omni-channel, all of these are tailwinds that can propel us to a much faster pace of growth. The very interesting point, I mean, I've like everybody has worked in many categories, many businesses. The most typical challenge in a business is demand generation. I think we are fortunate to be, at least in the QSR category, I can speak for that, to be entering a phase when demand will not be a challenge. The constriction, the bottleneck will come from quantity of supply, not quantity of demand. The Indian QSR market is waiting to be formed, waiting to be jump shifted in terms of orbit. And therefore, this is a very exciting phase for us in the future. The other piece, of course, is that as businesses transform to being digital businesses inherently are more amenable to scaling faster, to becoming bigger, and to become more consolidated. So that itself is a virtuous cycle that we are entering into. The more we digitalize, the more data we have access to, the more we learn, the better we get, and therefore the better we do. So that virtuous cycle, which every single digital player in the world is seeing the benefits of, will also come to businesses who become more and more digital. So I couldn't be more excited, Hitesh, because I believe that we are entering a very exciting period. You talked about renaissance in your opening remarks, right? This is renaissance for certainly for the QSR space, and I'm guessing even for retail. But I'll stop here and more later when we talk.
Sure, Pratik. I am very excited and happy to hear when you spoke that Indian retail, the demand generation will not be a challenge. And, this is something which is, I think a happy statement to hear. and you did speak about the 3 stages and digital business, etc. The same thing I would like to now go to Mohit and ask his views on the disruption in the business models that More has gone through or is undergoing, and what does he see in the near future. Mohit, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here, Hitesh, and a big hi first to Pratik, DC, Anurag, all familiar faces, Lalitji, you too. So I'll of course echo some of the things Pratik and DC spoke about. I think firstly, in a manner of speaking, the pandemic has forced us to get out of our comfort zones and go back to the consumer with a vengeance. I think that's been wonderful for any brand, and certainly for the one I work for. It has, of course, sped a wave of efficiency and innovation like never before. I mean, there's no choice; you had to do it. And I think some of it goes beyond hacks. I think I've seen large strategic shifts, which is wonderful for business. Of course, it's sped up tech transformation like never before. That's obvious. I probably think it's now all of this is going to probably lead to a phase of consolidation also, which at least for the industry I'm in is a good thing. Maybe not for Pratik's. I echo. I mean, hugely underpenetrated. But on the whole, I think we should not underestimate what has happened. Neither should we overestimate it. And one of the dangers is when you emerge out of this a situation like this, you're so full of it that you may even tend to overestimate what's happened. For instance, omni-channel has been the writing on the wall for the last few years. But having said that, at least in my industry, I don't think anybody's cracked the code to make it completely profitable even now. And I don't see a path to make it profitable also. But you have to take a wallet view that's sensible, and all of us are, because you'd like the consumer to shop with you, and she will decide which channel she wants to interact with you on. And that's a sensible view. Certainly, segment of many versus segment of one is the way to go. I think this is another very positive benefit of the pandemic. Taking out a shotgun and taking out full page media ads and all of that is a thing of the past. The choices and the way the consumer is speaking, and these are hyper choices today. Any case, the consumer demands to be spoken individually, and I think that's another positive fallout. The second piece on this is, yes, pandemic did give a premium also to proximity retail, something very close to us because, we have a large chain of supermarkets. But, the way I think about this is both of these were due to the circumstances and not due to fundamental change in consumer behavior. And, with changed circumstances, which are temporary, will consumer behavior change for the long term? I don't think so significantly in my view. Yes, it will nudge things, it will speeden up some of it, but it's not going to fundamentally change consumer behavior. Because, after all, behavior is brought about by a multiplicity of underlying factors, which are structural, how you consume, which part of the country you belong to, your income, society, etc. So temporary changes fundamentally, in my view, change behaviors temporarily, and consumers will unwind back. So from there, I think if you want to scale, you want to build a big brand, you have to be present across multiple channels. There's no way, that's a cold reality. And COVID has changed the channel mix somewhat, but I think it's settling down. And like DC said, that 85-90% pieces coming us. 4 months, 5 months back, all of us were struggling to fulfill online orders. Now you can get a delivery in the next 2 to 4 hours. What does that mean? And I don't think we have doubled and tripled over 4 months back our fulfillment capability. So like Nagesh was saying, it doesn't make sense to overinvest because ultimately these are delivery channels. What matters is the customer proposition. If that holds, the channel shifts will be a response to what the consumer wants and nothing more. The other thing which I saw is the retailers which had complete clarity in their customer value propositions, their product, have actually used this year to massively scale up their presence and their brand. And I think those are the smartest guys. Okay, if you go deep into the data and peel off the layers, you'll see some very exciting stuff happening. For obvious reasons, I can't take names here. We've been very busy with leasing, expansion, capacity increase, etc. And both offline and online, as well as investing in their brands. What a wonderful time to invest in your brand. And now, of course, very difficult when you run a P&L. I do certainly, but those are also the positive fallouts which have come from here. So that's how I see it personally, Hitesh.
Thanks, Mohit, for these insights. I just want to restate what you have told about, and one thing that has got my attention very strongly is circumstances, and these are temporary times. Consumer behavior is changing, and this can be, or this may be, temporary. And how temporary is it? And because we have seen the data, and what India could not do in last 10 years, we have done it in 10 months as far as digital is concerned. But this is an exciting thing, and I also would like to ask the next question to Lalit ji about his business model, and what disruption has his business model undergone, any disruption, or has he come up with any innovation as far as his business model is concerned? Lalit ji, we have been following V-Mart very closely, and we have seen what it is, but please share your views on how you see the disruption in the business models, especially in your case. Yeah, Lalit ji, can you hear me?
Hey, hi, Hitesh.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and the entire panel. All of them, we have been together in other panels multiple number of times. So good to see you guys here. And I'm seeing the kind of the range of discussion which is happening, and the variety of discussion. Agreeing with everyone, can't deny, can't disagree with anyone. So that's the reality today. But for V-Mart, largely, as you understand, and if you know that we are largely a tier 2, tier 3 diamond retailer. While I'm speaking, I'm on a store trip. I'm in Patna today. So I'm seeing the market right here, live, how is it happening, what's going on. So, I can't see anything which is differentiated. I can't see anything which is different. I'm seeing life is very normal. People are very normally moving out. There's normal shopping which is happening. My stores are almost doing similar numbers of last year now. They started with the new range of spring summer. They started doing it. So yes, definitely the journey has been very tough. We have seen multiple different obstacles, bottlenecks, challenges. And I think we all were in the present mode. We all were in the present mode, trying to, in an agile manner, take up the challenge and then get on to the response, bring in the best of the response. But very clearly, we have top. That's what I was speaking in the last meeting also. Very clearly, we had top things in mind that we should not hurt anyone. We should not create any kind of disharmony in any kind of relationship. That was our key fundamental. We all said that this is crisis time. People are in deep pain. There are differentiated anxieties that exist with multiple stakeholders whom we have, the whole ecosystem that we have, whether it is a vendor, or it is a landlord, it is the employee, customer, and the community at large. Everyone has their own ways of handling things, getting into the anxiety mode. So we went out to approach everyone. We went out to see that no one gets really dampened. We did discuss. It was a relationship. Either it is a landlord where we had to ask for a discount. We came out, we asked them very humbly, and they all participated. They all understood that we have a long-term relationship. We want to be together. These are small temporary phase which we have to pass through. We work with the community in trying to help them. We work with customers. We set out more than 100 trucks where we reached out to villages to help the customer with the product that they wanted. We set up shops in the truck, and we did home deliveries. We did everything. That's not the way we do businesses, but we did, because people sitting in villages were not able to come to the towns, and we went to the villages to try and feed them. So what I believe here is that in these the crisis time, at these times, you can't just think of profits. You can't just think of revenue. You have to think of relationship. You have to think of long-term relationship building. And that's what we did at V-Mart. And that's what we believe has strengthened our brand today. And we believe today we are capable now. And the belief of for myself in my own organization structure has gone deepened. And I believe from here, I heard Nagesh, I mean, on capability building or capacity addition or investments in new stores. And I maybe differentiate with Nagesh, who say that, no, Nagesh, these are times when we should actually get on to the business. These are times when we should go in and invest and then see the right opportunity and build ourselves a little more stronger so that we are able to conquer the opportunities which are existing in India, which is huge in nature. We all say India has still not started consuming. We all say there is huge population that India has and young population that India has. They're going to consume, they're going to buy more. So we need to, as a retailer, as a stalwart, we need to come out and invest and take it face on.
Very nice, Lalitji. Capacity increase and investment. One thing that you rightly said was think of long-term relationship. I think this is the key to any success, whether it is personal or professional. With this, I would move to Anurag. And Anurag, you have heard 4 stalwarts here, and they have been speaking about the business models and some changes that have taken place. What is your view on the overall disruption in the business models and the current environment?
Thank you, Hitesh. And obviously, you put me in a spot because you give me the chance after 4 stalwarts have spoken. So I do need to now. You'll have to give me a bit of grace on that.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, then save the best for the last.
Absolutely, I agree with DC.
So DC has put me further in the spot. So thank you, DC, for that. I think Hitesh, like all of our panelists spoke. Clearly, we are all in the business to serve the customer, and the customer is evolving. Their behavior is evolving. Channel preferences are evolving. Some of those changes were happening, but it's all got accelerated. We all know that. I'll just pick on what one of the panelists said. We are now moving into an environment of on-demand consumption, right? In fact, Prateek, I was just speaking to one of your colleagues earlier. And the example that he was giving is like, if customers don't want to dine in the restaurant because of safety concerns, we'll deliver it to their car outside, and all the customer needs to do is just order on the app, and we will deliver from the store to the car. So you can order a pizza sitting in the car and consume in the car. So on-demand consumption driven by factors like safety, convenience, experience. Will drive hopefully greater, I completely agree with Prateek, demand generation, which earlier used to be a big priority. With on-demand consumption, with models evolving to be able to serve customers across different channels, across different consumption occasions, at home, on the go. There are not just 2 channels anymore. Right in the path to purchase, the customer could actually, if you see different categories, if it's jewelry, you can actually do the discovery online in a completely finalized, do the try-ons virtually, and then go to the store to make a purchase. So the whole process is now becoming so seamless. Retail is becoming so seamless. It's all to the benefit of the consumer. The consumer is benefiting from these evolving business models, which businesses and retail is actually bringing to the fore. So I think that's a fundamental advantage which the pandemic has brought. It has actually forced a lot of businesses to build capabilities to service the customer where he or she wanted it. And that's where I think, right now it's all about, like Prateek said, phase 1, phase 2, making sure our people, our employees, our customers are safe, the product delivery is safe. As we move into subsequent phases, we will see greater disruption. We will see different retailers looking at different business models. We have seen B2B2C model coming in, subscription-based models, hyper-local models. These will evolve in China, for example. Some of these models have evolved pre-pandemic itself, and they're getting accelerated. You can do social commerce. So, if I'm sitting at home just just browsing on a social media channel, and if you reach me with the right message, a personalized message, all I need is 2 or 3 clicks, and I could actually consume and make the purchase. So clearly, it obviously adds complexity, but I feel the whole on-demand consumption environment is going to unlock growth as we settle down, as some of the safety and health concerns settle down. It should unlock growth because we are, as businesses, as retailers, servicing our customers far better. We are enabling ourselves to be able to service them so much better than we were earlier. There's talks of, earlier the customer used to come to the store. Now we are taking the store to the customer. Imagine you're taking really the store or consumption points anywhere where the customer wants. Pop-up stores are emerging. Curbside pickup is coming up. So if you see a lot of these models which are evolving, I clearly see, as the dust settles down on the pandemic, the capability of retail business to service their customers would have gone up manyfold, and that's good for servicing the demand. That's good for growth. So very optimistic as we sort of settle down through this difficult phase. I'm very optimistic. Business for retail will be much better.
Thanks, Anurag. I would take this point ahead of servicing the digital consumer, and I would like to ask because Prateek did mention about the digital business virtuous cycle. DC did mention about on-demand models and other things. Both Mohit and Lalitji also spoke about the digital part of it. So this question is per se digital because we want to know what are the new capabilities required to build to better service the digital consumer today. Need for more intuitive, more responsive digital communication. What are the possibilities? This question I would start with DC. The new capabilities required for better service to the digital consumer.
Yeah. Hi, Hitesh. And first of all, I'd like to also say hello to Mr. Agarwal. Miss saying hello to him. I think I'm a big fan of the V-Mart model. So now, Hitesh, I think this used to be a niche skill set once, and now digital is a word we probably use 10 times in a day. It's become a word like food. And as I said, I hope it doesn't only remain like a fashionable thing, because life itself has become digital, even when you communicate with anybody else or children or even on Instagram. So I think we need the skilling of our labor force, because if the customer changes, then the whole organization from the top till, and more so even the frontline people who are customer facing, I think everybody needs to learn digital skill set. And once it used to be a niche, we used to call it in the past, but now it's become a workplace essentially when we all are communicating with each other digitally. I think this journey is not easy. Everybody thinks just by having few apps or having an business app or a website, we've become digital. I think not at all. I can tell you we are trying to do a single view of the customer and single view of data. And if time permits, I'll speak of it. It's very challenging. So you see, first of all, in an organization, there is something which we've always grown up with called MIS. You will be surprised, Hitesh, that I see not just in one company, the same data set comes in different reports to different functions. Supply chain will see a different report. They will see inventory in different number of days or value, but the category will see it in a different way. The operation will see it in a different way. It's the same data. It's the same number of days of inventory. Finance, absolutely. Absolutely, Lalitji. And finance will only see from inventory carrying cost. And as long as it doesn't matter कि वो 60 days be hai, which otherwise should not be. So these fixed mindsets of seeing data in your own lens of your job, which is your function, I think that's a disaster. So, there's something called single view of data. Can everybody in the company see the same data the same way? At least be on the same page when it comes to seeing that data, studying those insights, and then make decision making. Trust me, this sounds so simple, right? Ki badi baat kya hai? Like I'll tell you, we are on SAP. Eventually, the source data for every report is the same. It's SAP, it's POS. Everything generates from the POS, right? But nothing is far from truth, because people have their own Excel sheets and models, and some juniors, depending on from where they've come, what knowledge, they will make their own report. And when you come to a meeting and you look at them and you wonder, all of them have the same source of data, but the view is so different. So I think that's a very big challenge. That skilling needs to be done in retail at least. So I think single source of data. Second, single view of the consumer. How do you know that the consumer shopping in the store, and when the same consumer is in a car traveling and doesn't have time today, doesn't want to come to the store, wants to buy online, what are the difference in their shopping journey? Like, I'll give you an example. At Spencer's and at Nature's Basket, we have like 90% plus a customer's phone number. So we link the bill, whatever they've bought on the POS. And if they buy on the app, it's the same phone number. So you can marry the phone number and you can draw the journeys that, oh, when they buy online, they buy like this, or they buy these items or this pack sizes. And when they buy offline, the bill size is this and SKUs are this and XYZ. You'll be surprised, Hitesh. We are trained as human beings that there is somebody called digital marketer. He'll work with a social media agency. And at a certain time, they will trigger a notification, which on all your apps on your mobile, whichever app you use, it will come and show, oh, there's some offer. You'll be surprised. Pre-pandemic, of course, we should do that. Somebody's job, somebody has to do it. Like, do you really care? Or ask your team that SMS kitne baje bhejna hai? I'm sure Prateek will be much more knowledgeable than all of us, because I recently discovered and have so much respect that this new term, dark store, and all this, new things have come. Dark store, this store, ghost store. People make these terms. 15 years back, with 90% business, and of course my numbers may be incorrect, but more or less, Prateek will correct me. Majority of the business of Domino's was always delivery. So they were practically from 20 years back dark store. Of course, 10-20% sitting was there. But I remember by and large, the model was very different from Pizza Hut, where they were 80% sitting or 10% delivery. And look at how they've thrived. Look at how they've thrived. So I always wanted to ask Prateek, what is your view on this new terms called dark store? Weren't you guys always delivering, and 80-90% of your business was always like that? You are pioneers in a way. But we don't talk about it. So now, single view of customer. Let me surprise you, Hitesh. If you send a notification at a certain time, 5 p.m. or 7 p.m., with a certain cohort of customers, if you make group of customers, you'll be surprised that their strike rate or order rate actually goes up. And in digital marketing world, 1.5 to 2.5% strike rate is considered very good, which means, simply put, if you send 1 million SMSs and 1.5% people order on it using that coupon code, you feel good about it. 2% is considered in the digital reasonably good. You'll be surprised it goes to 4-5% if you can know which time the customer is buying. How do you know she's a housewife or working, and what time that notification is working? So I'll bring it all back to skilling and digital education, single source of data, single view of the data, and single view of the customer. And Mohit spoke on personalization. I think that's the next big deal. We all speak about it. It is the most difficult thing to do in mass. There are these, again, grand terms called mass personalization. I will not speak about it because I do not claim to know, barring textbook, how it is done. So I don't want to go there, but I think all of us are sitting on these challenges, and there's a long way to go.
Thanks, DC. I think that was very much insightful. Prateek, this taking ahead what DC said, and this question per se is about digital omni-channel. And Mohit also spoke that we have not yet cracked the code, overall. And I think it's just the beginning, or no, that's for you all to decide. But from your organization's perspective, what you feel, can an organization survive with a half-baked omni-channel approach today? And what is that Jubilant is doing, as far as omni-channel is concerned? Something innovative, something new, something fresh.
So Hitesh, I think the transformation of an organization like a QSR or a retailer into a digital one is a very fundamental one. It's one that calls for reinvention of a lot of capabilities, a lot of new strengths to be added. And DC spoke about some of them. Let me add to a few. I think the first one, it's a non-trivial capability again. How do you build your own assets? How do you build your own app, your own ordering platforms, which are stable, which are auto scalable, which can take any loads. And in our business, as you can imagine, that's a key requirement. When you have loads on Saturdays, Sundays, dinner time, big festival days, where the load factor is 1:100 or 1:70, 80 compared to the normal operating load. So how do you build a platform that's stable and that can take that scale? How do you build a platform in turn that is very, very agile? The architecture is right. How do you build something that is microservices enabled, so you can plug and play things, you can change modules very quickly, and therefore you can grow much faster. You can do partnerships much more easily. So building technology strengths is a huge requirement for a digital enterprise. Number one. Number two, having built a stable platform, how do you draw traffic to your platform and to your assets? So digital marketing, within that particularly performance marketing, becomes a key requirement. I think all of us as consumer marketing professionals are somewhat familiar with social marketing, social media, but we aren't as intimately aware of performance marketing, which is a lot more data and a lot more science driven. And we need to master that and understand that very intimately. Number three, I think DC spoke about that, Mohit spoke about it as well, personalization. I mean, the same intuitive experience and the same easy experience that all of us provide in our stores, how can a customer get that same experience online? And that requires, of course, a huge amount of data understanding and data analytics and data insights and data science capabilities. And the last point, of course, is partnerships. Nagesh spoke about it in his remarks as well. How do you forge partnerships? Because you can't do all of it in-house. So how do you build strategic partnerships? And you can build some, you can buy some, you can borrow some. But I think most fundamentally, at an enterprise level, the transformation to a digital business requires a fundamental change in mindset. As brick and mortar companies, we are used to a certain clock speed. There is a X number of months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months time for an innovation in FMCG. There's so much time required to turn around a new product in retail or in QSRs. All of those assumptions get upended, in fact, need to get questioned and revisited if you are a digital business. So the mindset required, the acceptability of what is a reasonable time, the organization structure, how do you enable an agile way of working, not just in the tech teams, but in the larger organization itself? How do you embed capabilities which are much more data-driven as opposed to heuristic-driven? So it's a very fundamental rethinking of the organization and the capabilities which will accelerate the transformation to digital businesses. They're doing a bunch of things as Jubilant. I think DC spoke about a few of them. I mean, Anurag spoke about it as well. If you are sitting at home and you want to order a pizza, of course you can have it delivered home. But if you want to get out, if you want to be, sort of a little bit more footloose and fancy free, you go out. But you don't sit in the store. You deliver the pizzas to you in your car, and a bunch of things like that. So technology is not the constraint anymore. It's our imaginations. I mean, the more you get to know the consumer, Mohit spoke about it in his remarks as well. I think it requires a deep understanding of the consumer, what are potentially the triggers and what are currently the barriers, and work back from there to provide tech-based solutions which will unleash growth.
Thanks. Since we are discussing new drivers to unlock growth, and digital is the fundamental today. Mohit, you did speak about tech transformation. You spoke about omni-channel. We have not yet cracked the code, and I think this is a very important statement, which is the reality of life for all the retailers. You did also speak about consumer demands to be spoken individually, and that's where DC spoke about personalization. And then the mass personalization. So how do you see, Mohit, the new capabilities to drive to better service the digital consumer or the demanding digital consumer? And is it going to change the current operations? Because from your first initial talk, it was very clear that this is temporary. But how temporary is temporary? That's what it is.
No, I think some parts are temporary and some to stay. But starting on a lighter note, on technology, I was a few years back, I was speaking with somebody who was leading transformation for us, a global tech company. And they said, Mohit, in US, food and grocery retail are in the last quartile of tech adoption. So, as an industry, we are dinosaurs. So, that's what we have to start with. And that, unfortunately, is the cold reality. And perhaps at least my generation now in leadership positions doesn't help matters. So our starting point is that. Look, to me, the end point, or really the pot of gold, is true omni-channel behavior. And omni-channel is a very, very abused word, used all over the place. People loosely connect it to mean they're doing some kind of e-commerce business.
Yeah.
But that's not what omni-channel is. With all humility, my view on omni-channel is when you're able to see the consumer as one, across whichever channel he or she is interacting with. A very simple way in apparel industry could be that you buy online and return product offline. I think when you display that kind of behavior, certainly seeing the consumer as one, then you're truly omni-channel. Very, very tough. And I don't see really, world-class Indian retailers there yet, but I think very aspirational for us and certainly accentuated now. But to me, there are three big things which come in the way which we have to solve. The first is we need to get used to, these have huge repercussions on the kind of talent we have. We need to show a huge amount of agility, and we're not used to that agility. I've got introduced to this terminology called sprints, as we've been doing tech transformation projects recently. So, the first meeting somebody said, I said, please explain to me a sprint. So they explained the sprint. And they said, typically in our industry, sprints are weekly sprints. But, Mohit, the best startups are doing daily sprints or sprints across 2 days. So that's the kind of competition you are in. I mean, for us, finishing a whole development cycle in 1 week is a much faster pace that we're used to. And the best in the world are doing it in 1 or 2 days. And believe me, it takes a lot to deliver a phase of a project in 1 week. So I think the first one is agility. The second one, which probably has got very nuanced, is you need to, especially on the e-commerce business, our focus has to go far more on input metrics. That's a very simple way of looking at it. And, this is a channel where you can't, I don't know how to put this, you can't discount it, you can't push sales. What you can do is influence your service metrics, which directly impact sales. You have to deliver product on time, your defect rates have to be low, and consumers will reward you when you do that. So that's another big transformation the organization has to do. Focus on what impacts sales. And this is very different from offline, by the way. Offline is more about, operational standards, right product on the shelves, pricing, things like that. We know what the triggers are. And the third, of course, everybody's spoken about it, is data-led, decision making. DC spoke about it, single view of data. Lalitji, I could see him smiling, saying, yes, we all have that same problems. But now this is one level above. You see, we've all built our careers using data in a particular way. Okay. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that will hold in the future. Okay. So I think not only daily decisions regarding consumers, but even more strategic decisions, we have to make it central. So, agility, input metric led, data driven, and the first thing we have to tackle is, do we even have the right talent, or do we need to reskill our talent? That's where I would start, and ultimately exhibit true omni-channel behavior.
Sure. Thank you, Mohit. Lalitji, you started with this statement that you are present in tier 2 and 3 cities. Now we are talking about digital omni-channel, personalization. How easy or difficult it is? So for you as V-Mart to implement all these things as far as the tier 2 and tier 3 cities are concerned. I'm talking this from two perspectives. One is the overall market segment that you are catering to, and overall the market, that is the geographical markets that you are catering to. So both from a customer perspective as well as from the market perspective.
Yeah, so Hitesh, definitely I was speaking in some other channel in the morning and some other platform, and saying the same statement, primarily smaller town consumers and people who earn between 20,000 rupees to 40,000 rupees per month. For them, fashion buying is not a everyday affair. It's a twice or thrice a year affair.
Okay.
And for them, these kind of purchases, they believe it's an investment, and they definitely want to also experience those shopping environment when they want to do it. So definitely, but yes, here is where the need is also there. because the infrastructure is so low. People who live in villages are not able to come to the town. People who are in town have a very, very low mode of transportation, very bad roads, very, very lower level of retailing, also the organized retail which is available in these towns. So what that also throws a lot of opportunity of leapfrogging, which is definitely there. That customer can actually benefit those omni-channel approach by actually getting onto the platform. Maybe doing all sorts of approach. Maybe it's a robo where they could research online, they come in, buy offline, maybe do research offline, and then go back home and then buy online. So they could, and that is definitely something which is going to happen. Digitalization from here onwards is not going to go back. It's going to go forward. We are going to go bigger and bigger on this. We are going to have more and more people adopting that. Acceleration of adoption is going to become far larger than what we have seen even in the COVID time. So we can't deny it. As a retailer, I think we can't deny it. We will have to accept it. We will have to see how do we convert this as an opportunity. How do we really look forward to it as an opportunity where we are actually getting a very good channel so that we are able to really bring in that consumer. The problem today is that because this has been really, the channel has been abused. The channel has been abused by people who have deep pockets, people who are trying to throw money, serve consumers at a lower cost or at a lower price, and then bring in losses in their books. So there is a problem right now on those channels, but that's the e-commerce model. But because we are in an offline retail, we are a brick and mortar retailer, we driving omni-channel definitely gives more trust to the consumer, and that's what we have seen. Since we have launched our omni-channel, we've got more than 1 million download now. We have seen really customer adopting it very well. People are coming in, people are trying to also order at the store, ask for help at the store. If they don't get sizes, people have now started asking, aap mujhe mangwa dijiye, aapka to omni-channel hai. There is this kind of buzzword which has started, which is a good thing, but largely, as everyone is speaking, this is around the entire organization. How do we really convert it as a culture? How do we change our processes internally, which is supportive of Omni? How do we really define content, have those cataloging in that way, which is actually motivating to the Omni customer? We will have to really change a lot of processes, and I agree with Mohit on saying that it's difficult. Single view of customer, Devendra was speaking, it's difficult, and we all know that. How do we create those single views? Till the time we have not done all of that, we are not going to become completely Omni. And not only Omni, but also adopting digitalization in multiple ways. What I have seen, the younger generation, the junior most people could adopt digitalization better. But there is a big problem right now with the middle and the senior level team, where there is a way of viewing data, there is a way of managing its process, there is a way of handling their department and their philosophy. So I think there we need to bring in more changes. We need to keep speaking about it. We need to keep adopting it and driving digitalization for our need, for our betterment, for our upliftment, and increasing our EBITDA. So that's the area that I think. But yes, definitely digitalization and the kind of response that we've got on the Omni has motivated us a lot. Is definitely driving us to invest more in digitalization or omni-channel, or even adding more products on those fronts, because that is definitely going to leapfrog. And people who have still not been able to go to a good organized retail store could go online and buy and maybe return back to it.
Fair enough. Thank you, Lalitji. Anurag, you heard Lalitji speaking right now, and the same points were raised by DC, Mohitji, and even Prateek. Now, adopting digitization, how do we do that? Mindset change is required, process change is required. How do we do all these things? As Accenture, and what is your view? How should the retailers go about doing this? And if you can answer this succinctly, we are coming to the fag end of this. But I want your view. How can they adopt this change and transformation?
Hitesh, before Anurag speaks, I also wanted to bring attention on two things.
Yeah.
Where I think, one more thing that what we've seen that, even we need to work on sustainability, and sustainability will really come more to the forefront, because both as a matter of compliance and as voluntary business priority. In a more uncertain and unpredictable business environment, we need to bring that in our business function. How do we do it? It's very difficult for retailers like us to think on those. But yes, we have to drive our business model to that, business environment to that, and do some strategy.
Fair enough, Lalitji. Yeah, thanks, Lalitji. Just to add on that, every year RAI at Retail Leadership Summit has a session on sustainability. We had it yesterday as well. So, we can discuss this offline also and, take it to the next level. But yeah, I would request Anurag to, share his views on how, this transformation can happen, please.
No, I mean, Hitesh, it was very clear if we hear some of the business leaders on the panel that, there is a lot more talk about digitalization and the value and the benefit from it, but maybe lesser support available to really enable that. And I'll give 2-3 examples, because we do need to adopt different business models and practices. Even those who are technology service providers, the technologies by themselves, how do we do reskilling? There will need to be newer things coming in. First and foremost, for example, the whole technology adoption. Now, technology many times can be a very upfront heavy capex or upfront investment led. We do need to move towards models which are more pay per use, which are more opex led. So rather than businesses investing upfront huge capex and then amortizing it over the next few years, there have to be players who have to essentially come and support and technology. For example, let's take the technology of cloud. Earlier, you had to have your own data centers. You had to, if you had to hold consumer data of 100 million consumers, you would want to literally have your own data servers. So you would invest capex. Now you have cloud, so you're variabilizing the cost structures. You're just paying as per what you're using. Similarly, even including other enterprise technologies, whether it's commerce engines, whether it is marketing automation that panelists spoke about. All of that there have to be players which have to emerge who will have to offer that on a pay-per-use basis. So it's not something that businesses should invest on their own. And like Nagesh said, and a lot of the other panelists said, here is where ecosystem partnerships would come in, newer business models will need to come in. Reskilling of the organization, I think, is the most important piece, the mindset part. That's the most important. How do we get digital fluency in our own organization? Can we excite the organization with a vision of what technology can deliver? So one is to obviously say, can you read this report and can you sort of refer to these automated reports? But technology beyond enterprise is now touching consumers in a big way. So RFID technology, if you have embedded in all your garments, a customer in a store can do an auto checkout. And it is one to many. So you just, if you have 10 items in your bag, you can check out and raise a bill of 10 items at the same time. You don't need to stand at the till. So there are technologies which are emerging, which are very consumer facing. And once consumers get used to it, they will start demanding it, or they will start migrating to those businesses and stores where they are getting it. So there's a lot of convergence we are seeing. Online experience, we're all used to Netflix or Amazon and some of the others who've really taken the lead there. Consumers want 2-click, 3-click experiences. They don't want to navigate a difficult UI UX. So because of this convergence across industries and consumers getting this experience somewhere else, they will start quickly demanding it here. So painting the whole vision and picture in our organization that this is how we want to evolve. A store staff need not necessarily be only for transactions. You can have, if you can use technology to convert your store staff in an apparel store and make them stylists. What if we could do that? If the employee in the store is actually a stylist helping the customers take some style-based decisions. Imagine what that will do to customer experience. So, and how do I now train my store employee? First, I will need to automate some of the processes so that the store employee is not doing the basic transactional stuff, but is actually spending more time with the customer. How do I train them without having to call them to our headquarters and saying, sit here for 15 days in a hotel and now we'll do offline training? No. Can we deliver this on their handhelds, on their mobiles, and they sort of educate themselves when they are free? So the same technologies that we're talking about will actually also need to solve for some of these constraints that business leaders have spoken about. Ecosystem partnerships, newer technologies, the vision within the organization, all of that will have to come together for this transformation to happen.
Thanks, Anurag. In fact, what all the leaders have mentioned, these are the new drivers, and I have noted down the points. In fact, I've got 10 questions to ask to each of you, but unfortunately, due to the paucity of time, we have already touched 3-5 almost, and that's the end of this session. But I would request all of you to give a 30-second closing remarks on this session of Retail Renaissance, old fundamentals, new drivers to unlock change. We start with I've seen DC again. So DC, we can have a 30-second final word from you to start with, and then we'll go to others and close the session, please.
So I think since we're in the pandemic and as the digital conversation has been dominant, let me say an oxymoron. We have to become digital yet not forget what the consumers used to do earlier. And I will go to what Mohit said. Already the online orders and everything which had gone up in the peak, and I don't want to take names, some of the e-commerce companies which were delivering groceries have shut those verticals. So we are creatures of habit and things come back pretty fast. So let's not forget or stretch an argument, or in economics, we are taught this thing called recency effect. Whatever's happened recently, we start thinking that's what's going to happen, and that clouds our mind. So we have to, of course, become digital. Some of the things of the pandemic or the consumers taking up to digital will remain. But let's not forget that consumers want experience, and experience has to be given whether offline and online. So let me leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, DC. Pratik, your final views, please.
No, thanks. I think a couple of points. I think the first one being that the consumer has been forced to change her behavior so quickly and so much that she's now ready to deal with a lot more changes in her normal behavior in times to come. The threshold of acceptance has gone up, and therefore the time is right, and there's going to be very, very fertile grounds for more and more innovation happening in business in the next few years. And towards that, therefore, companies that are bolder and they take big bets and a little bit more risk will do better than companies that are more circumspect, where the consumer is ready and waiting. Yeah, so that's the first point. The second smaller point, and the subtext to what we discussed about digital, is that we spend a lot of time discussing the customer experience and how that can be served through digital, but we haven't talked a whole lot about the employee experience. And retail is a big employer of talent, and our employees, when they come into our stores, they come in with a smartphone experience in their homes, in their personal lives. But when they come into our stores or into our restaurants, they have to dumb down that experience. So how do we elevate the employee experience also, so that the employee experience then dovetails very seamlessly into providing a much superior customer experience? Yeah, those are the 2 points.
Thanks. I think employee experience is something which I have not heard for a long time, and that's something very unique. But yes, we all should concentrate on that. Mohit, your final views, please.
Yeah, so I'll just repeat what I said. The 3 things. I think the pandemic has helped us rediscover the consumer. It's forced us to be efficient. Hard decisions to efficient decisions, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's clearly led a wave of tech transformation. But however, I think we should not forget all of this has happened because of the circumstances. Fundamentally, all of these are good for the business. I worry what will happen when the circumstances change. It's like wearing a mask, thoda sa case gira to mask utar diya, right? So, I fear what will happen when the vaccination finishes and everything goes back to quote unquote normal. And I tell my leadership team that all of this which we started, we should not abandon because you suddenly see some more incremental sales or anything like that. Consumer has to be central to what we do. We have to continue with digital transformations of our businesses, and we have to be continuously efficient, especially in the business I am in, which is brutally efficient. So continue to wear the mask is what I would say.
Thank you, Mohit. Lalitji, your final views, please.
No, I agree with Mohit. Definitely, having that efficiency and wearing the mask of prudence, that's the strongest value that I would say one should have, which is very, very important, and the customer loves that. So if you reflect that, the customer is going to love that. But yeah, I think good time to reflect on the fundamental demand side drivers. I mean, definitely. The shift from an Indian-centric lens, basically, India the demographic is younger, more women-led, more nuclear families, rise of aspirational class, digitalization of lifestyle and consumption experience. We are seeing urbanization happening, led by creation of physical infrastructure, organized retail, piggybacking it on the unprecedented rate. Where we need to build strong fundamentals on business model, which is focusing whatever your markets are. For V-Mart, it's like tier 2, tier 3, aspirational class, lower middle income group. Value creation for the entire ecosystem, low cost process innovation, customer centricity, very, very important. And collaboration either with your competitors or your vendors or your suppliers or your facility providers. You need to, and this will become a necessity to adopt and share best practices. As the pandemic has shown, the threat of survival will grow for all retailers. We can compete only if we survive and remain profitable in the long run.
Thank you, Lalitji. Very, very insightful. Finally, Anurag, your views and final closing comments, please.
All I would say is once we've sort of secured our customers and our employees in the current environment, I think it's an inflection point. It's a time to really think of the next transformation. If we can use this opportunity to transform and become much better in servicing our customers, I think a few years down the line we will look back and say, we did get a big advantage or a big benefit actually of the big change or the big shift that's happened.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, leaders, for participating in today's webinar. And what Lalitji said, wear the mask of prudence. So with this, I would like to thank Devendra Chawla, Pratik Pota, Mohit Kampani, Anurag Gupta, and Lalitji for sharing their insights at Retail Leadership Summit Online 2021. Thank you very much.